welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Karishma, and joining me is the CEO of CAPA India, Kapil Kaul. Kapil, thank you so much for being on this conversation with us on the India Today network.
Thank you, Karishma.
Kapil, I'm going to start off by asking, what is CAPA India's envisions for 2024 for the Indian aviation sector?
Well, I think we'll continue to see robust growth for 24, both for domestic and international. The growth is actually going to be much higher than most of the people, most of us anticipate. But largely, we're stuck because of this supply chain issues. Depends upon how the supply chain issues ease up. I think the growth may be much more than what we will actually see. But overall, there is a robust growth. People are traveling for business, leisure. So I think we will have an exceptional year, except the fact that the supply chain issues may be a big constraint, but we don't know when and under what conditions it eases up. But having said that, I think the two principal airlines are making sure that the capacity is in place in spite of these constraints. So I think going forward, we will see a robust growth, both for domestic and international.
Okay, great. Kapil, you did mention about the supply chain issue, and that evidently means it has a direct relation with how a lot of aircrafts are being grounded by key aviation players. Tell me, what is the way out of it? Because we understand that two big airlines of India, IndiGo and Air India, also await their new orders, mega orders. And will that be able to solve the temporary issue?
No, so Air India's order is in place. They're getting an aircraft every week, the 737s. They will see almost about 40 to 45 planes in 2024 calendar year, particularly for Air India Express. So that part is in line. There's no change there. They continue to get their 320s, NEOs, as a part of the leases that they had secured. The 350s they are getting, the 6 of them, and they will also get some 777s from Etihad, ex-Etihad aircrafts. So I think Air India doesn't have a major challenge with respect to aircraft induction. They have a problem. Some of their older aircraft are awaiting some engine changes, and that will take its own time. But Air India doesn't seem to be having too many constraints as of now, and we await the 737 MAX issue, which is just got the case that happened with Akasa Air. So we will await that. But minus that, I think Air India is pretty much there in terms of their expansion. The challenge is primarily coming from for IndiGo, because they have significant aircraft grounded, and possibly significant aircraft could get grounded going forward. And they have, as usual, always confronted the problem well. They extended the leases of their current aircraft. They are getting some wet leases. They're getting some dry leases. They also are getting new aircraft every week. So they're going to do everything possible to meet capacity guidance. But the fact is that the aircraft are grounded, and that's a big deterrent for IndiGo. They will do whatever is possible to meet the capacity guidelines, but that's a concern. But it could get mitigated if SpiceJet comes back, and as is planned, their recapitalization is in place, and they would be, my assessment, being very aggressive in terms of their inductions. So I think overall, I think we will still have a lot of capacity coming in next year. But the one that is grounded was meant for growth, was not meant for replacement. Right. And that's the challenge, yeah.
Right. Though this is a deregulated sector, but tell me from a regulatory point of view, in terms of government's intervention, can the ministry be of any help in solving this? I do understand that the minister had reached out to Pratt and Whitney and try and license some kind of meetings, but does that really help?
I don't think this will help, because if you see in the Go Air's arbitration case, which Go Air won in Singapore, they were promised 10 aircraft, 10 engines every month, but Pratt and Whitney couldn't supply those 10 engines, largely because of supply chain issues. So the supply chain issues are serious. I think the government can keep pushing and make sure that India gets the same importance that United States gets, or some of their key customers get. So the government's intervention and government's resolve to solve this could basically accelerate solving India's problem. But I think this is a problem which is beyond what the ministry can do. because there are core issues. It's not that Pratt & Whitney doesn't want to supply engines, but they're having this unfortunate problem of the 600 engines that need to go for disk change, and that will take about 300 days. So it's inevitable some flights would aircraft had to be grounded. But yes, I think the pressure from the government, because India is a huge market, not only just for the civil, but for the defense part for the RTX group. So I think government's intervention can just basically accelerate the changes and inductions for the Indian carriers. Maybe give them same kind of level of treatment that the US carriers would get or any other carrier would get. But I don't think the ministry can do much. It's a structural issue more with Pratt rather than any government challenge.
Right. Also, if we talk a bit about the safety concern, like we all know, recently it was the Alaska Airlines incident in terms of a Boeing plane. Now, keeping in mind that the Indian Airlines fleet also has some amount of Boeing planes, and most of them are also awaiting some orders. Now, is that of a concern? Because DGCA also recently asked for inspection of these aircrafts.
No, as of now, I don't think there is anything. The DGCA has asked for checks. I think the airlines have complied to it. They would be replying to the DGCA that the checks have been done. But I think one will have to wait for the FAA guidance. They have grounded 737-9s. Lots of aircrafts have been grounded. Once they do their inspections and whatever is the outcome, possibly may have an impact. But as of now, the DGCA has asked for one more check to be done, which was to be done overnight. I think, as I am reading, that the airlines have already done it. But we will await what the FAA inspections and their understanding is, and then the further guidance would direct as to what will happen. But as of now, I don't see any major challenge with 737 MAX. But you never know.
Yeah. Sorry, Kapil, but just to understand on a lighter note, would you be able to guide me that how, if we try draw an analogy with the global aviation space and of course in the Indian aviation space, do you see Indian aviation space to be more in a code red situation when it comes to the safety standards, or is it a problem?
No. I think the MAX issue and the safety are not to be related. That's something which it's an OEM's guidance. OEM says that you need to check. FAA would say, the GCA would follow. I don't think there is anything specific about the safety issues with respect to the MAX. I think the overall is this: as India flies, there's an exceptional induction schedule by airlines. We will almost double up the fleet from now on till the next 5 years. It constrains the system. It's put pressure on the system. Right. And the DGCA, I think, if you see the fines and whatever decisions DGCA is taking, are aggressive. But I don't see as of now anything alarmist about the safety thing. But we must keep in mind that the expansion is once in a generation expansion plan. Yeah. It will constrain and stretch the regulator and the ecosystem. It's very important that we are alert to the changes that the airline system and airline growth will bring. But as of now, there is nothing alarmist about the safety issues with India.
Okay. If we talk a bit on the financials of the airlines, how do you see SpiceJet and Akasa doing? You did mention about the capital funding that recently SpiceJet also announced.
SpiceJet, if once the funding is concluded, I think though they need to get more money, this is not going to be sufficient. But I think this is a great lifeline for them, frankly. I would see a very different SpiceJet post the funding in FY24 and going forward. You will see them aggressive in terms of expansion plans. They had an order which needs to be possibly renegotiated. So once the Spice gets the money, I think they should be quite aggressive. So obviously, they need more money. But I think Spice, with this kind of funding, for now, at least in the interim, they seem to be sorted out. Though the funds are coming in June and a little later, if it would have been earlier, it would have been better for them. But I think it's a great lifeline for SpiceJet, frankly. I see a different SpiceJet emerging.
An airline that's on a lifeline, do you think would be the right candidate to buy another airline like a Go First?
No, it is, to be frank with you, I think for SpiceJet, it makes a lot of sense. Now, the only caveat is, do they have the funding? Because for their own operations, they would need more funding than the than the money that they have secured. But if there's an investor behind it, then I think it makes great sense for them because 50 odd planes are here in India. They have 72 more in order. Spice will not get an aircraft from Boeing for the next 2-3 years. So if they want to be back in business and be a big airline they were, I think acquisition of Go Air makes sense for them now. It's subject to due diligence, subject to funding, subject to what happens at NCLT. But it'll get them access to aircraft very quickly. Otherwise, they wouldn't get that. So I think if for anyone that makes Go Air's acquisition makes sense given the circumstances of SpiceJet, I think they've taken a good decision to at least to bid for it. And if they are successful, I think that will redraw SpiceJet's business and future growth. But with one caveat, it needs significant funding, both for SpiceJet and as well as for Go Air's acquisition. But I think for SpiceJet, it would make great sense in case they acquire.
Okay. In the long run, how do you see Akasa? They also had to go through slight turbulence because of their staff issues and the pilot crew in between.
Normal startup issues in a growth cycle like ours. The pilots are not there, even with the aircrafts grounded, people having pilots issues. The pilot challenges, especially commanders going for FY25 and 26, once these aircrafts are back, is going to be pretty serious. So these are general startup issues. I think they sorted it out well. They seem to have the capital in place. You would see a big order coming. They may need more capital. They would need to put in more money, particularly once the new orders get materialized. But I think they seem to be in a good space. They've run a smart airline. If they continue, I think they will possibly be bigger and a stronger airline and a stronger candidate in the Indian market. But the unfortunate part that they happen will serve them well, because I think they were doing well. The experience will be very useful, how they dealt with it, how did the ecosystem respond to them. I think these learnings will be great as they grow from 22 odd planes to 70 and then 100 plus over the next 5-6 years. So I think they seem to be well placed, but obviously the two principal players are very aggressive. So between IndiGo and Spice, they have an aggressive expansion plan. So Akasa is well placed. They may need to induct an investor, but otherwise they seem to be well placed. And I again want to say this on record that whatever issues that they surfaced with them regarding a pilot will serve them well for the future. It's a great learning at an early stage of their operations.
Right. Kapil, in a recent CAPA India's report, it was, of course, mentioned that Air India and IndiGo are quite going to be the star-studded airlines continuing to be this year. Now, we've spoken briefly about Akasa, about SpiceJet. There is Vistar, of course, that will be in the long run integrated with Air India. Tell me, is Air India and IndiGo going to maintain the duopoly, or are we going to see these players also trying and catching the race?
It's difficult to reach the level that both Air India and IndiGo are. IndiGo is 62 and they're closer to 90% between them. We see once the others grow, like Akasa grows and SpiceJet is back, it could reduce the market share between them to about 75% over the next couple of years, if these airlines are able to grow to the level that they required. But I see an 80% plus market share between them, 80 to 85 in the next couple of years at least, depending upon, based on the fact that they both have a very, very aggressive induction plan, at least for 2 years. And then it depends upon what SpiceJet kind of expansion is, how many aircraft they're able to get for the next couple of years. That will also impact. But I see between both of them closer to 80% market share in the next 2 years, and that's not going to change.
No, that clearly, evidently, they're going to rule the markets in the Indian aviation space. Another report by CAPA India, Kapil, and that talks about the difference in ATF pricing in terms of the New Delhi airport and the upcoming Jewar airport in Noida. Tell me, will that make airfares cheaper for people flying from Noida? Of course, it's going to be limited in terms of the number of slots that are allotted in terms of how many flights could take off in a day.
First of all, I think the dual airport system, having a very, very strong Delhi airport with about 120 million capacity, 4 runways, excellent infrastructure, and the Noida airport is going to change the NCR economics urban economics, NCR economics. Fundamentally, it's a game changer. So it's going to be good for the consumer, good for the industry, and good for the overall economy once these airports are operational. I think one of the key benefits to the Noida airport is that they have a 4% VAT on ATF. That is such a significant benefit, particularly as the oil prices remain elevated. And Delhi airport doesn't have it, continues to have a 25% VAT. So I think Delhi government, it's more to do with Delhi government than anybody else to say that they have an airport which has transformed and will transform Delhi's economy for long term. That can they afford to make Delhi airport not competitive against Noida? So I think if the government of Delhi realizes that you have a great asset which will be great for their economy, that you need to address this massive gap for 4 to 25%. It will then I think once the parity is got, then we are okay. I'm not very sure Delhi government is actually aware of it and they are going to act upon it. If they don't act upon it, frankly, then I think it will be a different structure. But they must act upon it because it can't be. You have to have a level playing field, and the government of Delhi, which will not only help in competing with NCR, will also help the overall aviation if Delhi has to bring its VAT to about 4%. But we will await that. I think there would be some bit of correction that will happen. But it's important that the Noida airport, the 4% new infrastructure, they have a strong catchment area on that side, both for passenger and cargo. So for NCR, it's a great thing. They will compete, but they will emerge very successful. Both NCR and the Delhi airport. But I think Delhi government must address it. I don't think they can continue keeping it 25%. It's not, I think, fair.
Kapil, of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently visited the Lakshadweep Islands. How do you see that tourism flourishing in the coming days? Because there is a lot of discussion over social media about people now discussing about visiting these islands.
Yeah, it's an excellent. I think the video, the imagery that we saw, the first reaction that I had is that one must go to Lakshadweep. It would have been a reaction possibly with everybody who would have seen the video. So I think there's a great message that the Prime Minister has given that islands like them need to be visited. They're gorgeous, and it will serve Indian tourism pretty well if Andaman and Lakshadweep have significant tourism. Right now, there is a connectivity problem, and there may be hotel infrastructure problem. But I think the way that video came up, and it just created a tremendous interest in Lakshadweep. So I am looking forward. The more people, the people at the level of the Prime Minister promotes tourism, I think it will have a game-changing impact. So I think it had an impact. You saw the social media and buzz around social media. And India is a tremendous tourism destination internally. We just need to get connectivity, get infrastructure. You will see more and more people also traveling domestic in the near term. But connectivity is a problem. Hotel infrastructure may be a problem. But the message is right there. And this incident with Maldives is extremely unfortunate, frankly.
Yeah.
Indians can go to Lakshadweep and go to Maldives also, because India is a huge market. So the controversy was unfortunate, but I think the Prime Minister's video has spurred tremendous interest in Lakshadweep, and I think it will, going forward, if the government of Lakshadweep or the Union Territory of Lakshadweep maintains that interest, I think we'll see tremendous footfalls in the Lakshadweep going ahead.
Kapil, you did talk about the connectivity issue. Tell me now, is that an opportunity for most of these airlines to start flights and also probably, uplift the Udan scheme?
So connectivity is continuing to grow. I think we are starting new flights, new routes, adding frequencies to the current route. So I think the connectivity regime will continue to be strong across the country. As I said, once the supply chain issues are sorted out, we will see more connectivity, being addressed to the deeper ends of the country, tier 2 and tier 3. So that will continue. So that's continuing, and that will continue. And as we grow, as our fleet grows, we will have deep connectivity across the country. As for Udan is concerned, I think the mainline carriers who have the aircraft grounded would like to perhaps reschedule some of the Udan flights or temporarily suspend the Udan flights to give the flights to their main network because they have shortage of aircraft. But once the supply chain issues are sorted out, and particularly SpiceJet gets its act together, because SpiceJet was one of the key support of Udan. And I'm sure they will continue once their fleet and other issues get addressed. But overall, looking at Udan, the main thing about Udan is that it will be airlines who are the main scheduled carriers who would continue to be the lifeline of Udan. Minus the mainline carriers, I don't think there are airlines which are strong and capitalized to give strength to Udan, except that Fly 91 has joined, so they're well capitalized, they're funded by a private equity group, so that's very strong. We would need more stronger regional carriers like Fly 91 to make Udan very successful, and the mainline carriers contributing to it. But otherwise, on their own, if you look at the kind of capitalization that you require, the fleet under 30-seater aircrafts are not there. We don't have an under 30-seater technology. We have not globally, there is no new under 30-seater aircraft come for 20, 30 years. So that challenge will remain. But the bulk of Udan has to be by the mainline carriers and airlines like Fly 91 and other carriers who have the capital, vision, and to grow. But at the present moment, because of these constraints, there may be a temporary impact.
Right. Currently, what is the connectivity to Lakshadweep like?
I think there's limited connectivity to Lakshadweep. But once the government of India decides to promote it as a destination, frankly speaking, there should be, over a period of time, significant connectivity to that place. But it's just not the connectivity for the locals, it's a connectivity for tourism. So you need to see whether there is a hotel infrastructure available to the level that's required. Once those are in place, if you look at the destination, frankly, it was so eye-catching. It just created a tremendous amount of interest not only in the social media, but all people are planning vacation going forward. And I think, as I said to you, that's a great video, great service to promote tourism. And I hope we do this very often, because India is an intellectual adventure as far as tourism is concerned. We have everything. It's just a question of getting connectivity, infrastructure together.
Clearly, Maldives is not happy about it. And
it is unfortunate, as I said to you, that India is one of the largest source markets. About 11-12% of visitors are from India. Indians is paying well, spending more money there. And
10 to 12% annually.
11-12% annually. We are the largest source markets to Maldives. But I think the market in India is so big that both Maldives and Lakshadweep can coexist. I don't think the Prime Minister's message was at the expense of Maldives. The message was that we have some jewels in India. Once connectivity and infrastructure is sorted out, Indians must travel, and that's a great message. It was not against Maldives or any other country. Just say, give attention to the jewels that you have. The reaction from Maldives may have been unfortunate, but I think the video itself will serve Indian tourism strategically, I would say.
Thank you very much, Kapil, for being with us on this interview and sharing quite a lot of insights that's come in. And we hope 2024 turns out to be a year for the Indian aviation yet again.
Thank you very much.